This is Steve Garcia with 620 Studio. This is the first video of a series of training videos we've created for WordPress websites that we have built for many of our clients. One of the biggest requests we have is additional training on sites that we've built for many of our clients, and with the advancements in WordPress, we've been building a lot of our websites more recently in WordPress. It's a very simple system to use, although the one or two trainings that we give at the beginning once the site launches, sometimes it's not quite enough, and there's always additional questions, and being able to have a video to fall back on to be able to see some of the basics will probably help out many of our clients. This video is going to be specifically on doing an introduction to WordPress itself. We build with the Divi theme by Elegant Themes, but across the board we use WordPress, and to know all the details on the back end and be able to see kind of the individual parts will help, I believe, at least give you a foundation for the trainings that are to come in regards to using the Divi themes, all the different modules and that sort of thing. Across the board for WordPress, we'll just jump right in. Across the board for WordPress, you're going to be using your domain and with /admin at the end to be able to access what's called the back end. This is the control panel for WordPress. This is where the majority of your updates are going to be handled, are going to happen while updating your site. So for this training purpose, for this training series, we're going to be using a kind of a mock website that I've created just for real quick basics. So it's not going to be a real website, and it's not going to be specific exactly to your specific website. Most of the websites we build have plugins that are specific to functionality that is on your site. We're not going to be able to go through all of them, but we will be going over kind of the main general information that will be shared across all sites. To be able to access the back end or the control panel for WordPress, basically the dashboard, we'll call it the WordPress Dashboard moving forward. To access the WordPress Dashboard, you'll be using your domain. So for this training purposes, we're going to be using training.620studio.com. Yours will probably be www.whatever-it-is.com, your domain name. And then just add admin to the end of it, /admin, which will then bring you to the login information, username, password. You should have already received this. If not, you can contact us, or better yet, you'll be able to just add your email address or username if you remember that, your email address, and then your password. If not, you can just choose lost your password, put your email address in there, and you should be able to recover that password. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And the first thing you'll see is the WordPress dashboard. This information is really just kind of very basic. Most of the content you're going to be using is here on the left side. You're going to be seeing your dashboard. You got posts, media, pages, projects, plugins, users. Those are going to be the majority of what you're going to be looking at using kind of on an ongoing basis. Posts are going to be for any news or blog setups. If you have a blog or if you have a news channel on your website, you'll be using the post section. Pretty much every site that we build uses pages primarily. This is going to be where all of your pages for the website itself is going to be listed. This is your home page, contact page, about. Any of the main content on your site is going to be listed under the pages. So you're going to probably spend 95% of your time within the WordPress dashboard under pages. Projects are going to be for very specific websites where we've created individual projects. So using that as an example would be like a portfolio for a company who has projects that they do for, we'll use a architectural or construction company. A project may show we've done this building for Frostbank, we've done a residential home, we've done done foundation, whatever it may be. It's usually a way for you to be able to show projects. Now, the way that the posts, pages, and projects look is when you actually go into these areas, they're going to look very similar in layout. However, how they're going to be in the URLs where kind of things get very specific. For instance, projects will have, or in this situation, be training.620studio.com/project/my project. Posts will have something similar to be like /blog/my first post or something along those lines. But from a layout standpoint, if I show you posts, pages, and projects, and I lined up the layouts side by side, you'll see very, very little difference between the two, between all three. So if you are comfortable using pages, you should have no problems accessing the posts or the projects. There's little differences that will lightly go over, but for the most part, they are relatively same. So we're going to be working primarily in pages in these tutorials. You're also going to, the other areas you're going to be looking at is the plugins area, which that's going to be where additional functionality gets added. You're not going to really be changing many of these plugins. If there's specific functionality you want to be able to add, you can choose add new, or on occasion you'll see where updates need to be made, and you'll see like little two arrows like in a circular fashion showing how many updates there are. So there will be some plugin updates. If you want to update those, you're more than welcome to. If not, then you can just contact us and say, well, I see a lot of plugin updates, or if there's any functionality that you're seeing that's not working quite right, just let me know. And sometimes a update will fix something that may be going around. There are plugin updates pretty regularly, especially when WordPress itself gets updated. Many of the plugins will need to be updated at the exact same time to make sure that they don't break under the new update. And then finally, users is going to be where you're going to be able to manage all the users who have access to WordPress. Usually there's only a handful that are installed, mostly because of the fact that, or at least added, because of the fact that you don't have, most of our clients don't have many people updating the website. Now, there could be some that have quite a few, and you can have as many as you would like. Each user can have a different member access, meaning they have different access to different things like publishing only, those type of things. So you'll have the ability to be able to kind of control somewhat what can and can't be done from a member. Most times, usually it's 1 or 2 point people who have direct access to the website. We do, for the sake of maintenance, we prefer that our login still be within the system, so that way if something goes awry, we can go ahead and log in and be able to make any fixes or changes or anything that you need without having to request a new user. So I would advise you leave the 620 Studio login user still available if possible. So let's start with pages. So we've seen the dashboard. Like I said, 95% of the time you're going to be working with pages. So if you click on the pages section here, you'll see it will bring up a list of pages that are available. Right now for this training, we only have 2. I didn't feel the need to fill out an entire website for this, but for the home page, which is going to show you as a front page, and then also web design. To give you a quick glimpse of kind of the very basic site that I built up, we just kind of created one for a training. 620 Studio has the navigation at the top and just has some really, really basic information here, stuff that is obviously very fake, but at least it gives you an idea of kind of how some of these sites are built. We're not going to look at the home page just yet because it's using some of the Divi modules that I'll be discussing in future in the next few video series, some of the videos that we have coming up. So I think that would probably confuse a little bit. So we're going to start with the web design. If I go and click on web design up here, you'll see it's very, very basic information. You've got a header, you got some text, maybe a second header, and very, very basic information. I think that's all we really need to look at right now. If you actually click on the web design, or you can click on edit, you'll see it brings up what's the page layout. You have the the title of the page. It gives you what the permalink or the URL will be. So for instance, training.622.com/webdesign is the same URL that's up here. If you want to be very specific on what you want to do, just choose edit, and you can then edit what you want that specific URL to be. This is helpful when it comes to especially landing pages where someone needs to be able to access something very short. That's a good way to be able to update that information. This main area is going to be where the page content is going to live. The web design at here, the title is with the default is going to be what shows up at the top. Everything else is going to kind of fall in line below it. This setup right here is the default WordPress page editor and text editor. I would say that a majority of the sites that we build do not actually use this. However, I do want to give you the details and give you some, at least the basics first, and then we'll start working with what's called the builder, the page builder. These tools at the top are what we call a WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get editor. So you have the ability to be able to choose whether you want something to be a header, if you want it to have bold, italicized, numbered, bullets. You can justify align the text how you want. You can add links, add media. There's a lot of information you can use, a lot of tools that you can use in this specific area. So that way you can kind of format the page from a style standpoint as you would like. As you can see that we have this, what we do is basically a header 2. If I wanted to add another one, and say here's a second section, and wanted to give that a header 3, you can see these things kind of fall in line. You can see that the sizing wise they get a little bit smaller. If I do a header 4, you'll see that it's even smaller. And the way this works is really just from you imagine it like a outline. You've got a header 1 being web design, that's the page title, then you have some introductory text, and then what we do would be kind of a subsection of that. We could have some text, and under what we do there may be something on, let's say we'll start with design, and then development would be another subsection of what we do, and I would give that a header 3, because now we've got header 1 is web design, header 2 is what we do, header 3 is design and development, header 4 could be specifically under development. We'll say HTML, and then there could be CSS and PHP. So these are individual headings with information below development. So you could imagine web design, what we do, development, and then PHP. So you can see that there's kind of a hierarchy here, and this is what Google, being a lot of the search engines, will use to organize and index your site, so that way they know what's most important and what especially with keywords like design and development is going to be have higher hierarchy than, let's say, CSS, because of the fact that how it's organized on the page, because CSS is basically what's called a child of development. So keep that in mind when it comes to actually updating your content and how you're organizing your page. Again, this is the basics. We'll be looking at actually doing individual modules, but this is a very typical basic page we have. If you want to add some media, like add a picture, what you would do is use this little add media button, and you would just kind of put your cursor where you want that media to sit. So I'm going to put it right next to this Greek word, and I'm going to add some media. I'm going to upload. There's the option for, here's the media gallery that comes up. You have the media library that's I've already uploaded some images for the specific application. If I want to upload some files, I'm going to go and find the files themselves. And so I'm just going to put this gears one up here for now. Once it's uploaded, you'll see what the size is, get some information. Over here on the right side, you'll see where it has some alignment, some additional tools like alignment. If you want to link to something, you have a specific size you have in mind. For this purpose, we'll go ahead and align it left, and then I'll keep it medium. You can see that there's thumbnail, medium, and full size. I'm gonna go and just put it for medium because I don't really want it 850 pixels wide. I just kind of left it that size. So if I insert in the page, you'll see it aligns it to the left, flows the text around it, so that way it kind of fits in, fairly well. And if this was indicative of or descriptive of what this content would be, then it would be a nice way to kind of frame that and be able to add some interest. So you can see you can add images. If you click on it, edit it, you can then, you can say, oh, I want to go and put it over to the right. Hit update, you can see it moves over to the right. And it does give you a few little quick tools up here without having to actually go in. So if I want to align it left or I want to make it center, those type of information. So from a standpoint of actually creating content, this is really the basics of really what we're looking at doing. The final thing would be to look at the excerpt. The excerpt is what is used. It's almost like a quick summary of what a page would look like. Let's say, for instance, doing a search. So when someone does a search for a page, so I'm gonna, for this demonstration, I'm gonna go and do web design and do a search for web design, and you can see it brings up Lorem Ipsum Dolor. This is the same information as it's going on here. So by default, it's going to bring in the first words of the content. However, that may not actually be helpful from a search standpoint. For instance, like the home, it has 620 Studio, WordPress Training, Lorem. That right there is not really what we want to start with. We want to be a little more specific about what our search results will find. So that's where that excerpt falls into place. So if you're finding that you do a search and it brings up some information you don't necessarily want, look for the excerpt and be able to update it there, and it'll take place immediately. You'll have the ability to be able to publish on specific dates. You have the revisions to be able to go back if you need to. If you make a change, all of a sudden you realize, oh, I made a mistake, I need to go back. You have the ability to be able to actually fall back on previous versions, so it'll keep track of all that. If you need to hide a page, you can change the visibility from public. You can change it to private or password protected. Usually those are for the case if let's say, for instance, you don't want a page to be visible any longer. Same thing with the status. If you want to change it from published to draft, that way it's no longer visible. These kind of work hand in hand. They have different functions, but from a standpoint of either viewing it or not, that's how that specific works. Then you can also publish on a specific date. Anything that's published prior to this exact moment will show up on the site. If you wanted to change it to something further down the line, so if we wanted to go to, let's say, March of 2017, at that point the page would no longer be available until March 28th, 2017 at 3:59 p.m. So that will be how that specifically works in regards to publishing. So once you're done, you can then choose update, and your site, your page will now be visible. This does not actually add to the menu at all, and I'll be showing you in a future video specifically how the menus work under appearances. You've got widgets and menus. I'll be showing you how that actually updates in its own separate video. The featured image is also available for whenever you do in search results. That would be able to show, let's say, this little gear box. We can have that showing up next to the search results. So once you hit update, the page will then be updated. If I actually go to my web design page, you can see we've added this information. We've got the gears. Basically, we've made those changes however we needed to, and now it's considered live. So this is the very beginning of what WordPress is. It's not a huge content management system. However, it's large enough for the majority of the websites that we build, which is the reason why we use it almost primarily now. If you have any questions regarding this specific video, you can always give us, contact us at support@620studio.com, and we'll be able to answer those directly. We'll continue working with WordPress and showing you some of the new features, or at least some of the features that we'll be using on a regular basis in upcoming videos. Thank you.